What's up YouTube, it's me Mad38 and we are back with another video. This time we're talking about something different. We are talking about the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms TV show. And I know it's kind of a bit of a detour from World of Warcraft, but just hear me out for a second. Because I thought this show is so damn bloody amazing. It is absolutely insanely good that it really deserves a mention or talking about in terms of not only production value, high quality, quality over quantity, and just about everything which modern TV, gaming, the same in World of Warcraft. This is a problem you see over and over again, which the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms does absolutely the opposite. It completely and utterly differentiates. It doesn't span out episodes where they're 60 minutes long, putting in like 50% of it being filler conversations and the dialogue is terrible. This show is absolutely amazing. And I thought I would go through a homage to it because, oh my god, I've not seen TV like this. Um, Probably since I first watched Game of Thrones season 3. And that season 3 was just the biggest shock to me. And I thought that was the best TV that TV could get. But I mean, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms so far seems to really be taking that run because it is just very, very clever. To start off with, and what we're going to talk about is the characters. Duncan the Tool, the casting is insane. Duncan, Egg, you could see they're like, they get on well. They're like hombres. Then the rest of the cast are absolutely amazing as well. There's no shit filler dialogue where they're trying to sound clever. Each character clearly has their own sort of flaws, their limitations, and a very clear sense of honor. Um, and also the pacing of the show. It is extremely balanced. It makes you want to see the next episode without sort of leaving everything on these really irritating cliffhangers, like a massive problem of Stranger Things or um, I would say House of the Dragon is cliffhanger, 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 but they're all artificially put in, whereas the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms really just leaves you hanging, going on to the next episode. But you've got the satisfaction of watching something which has been fulfilling, and it doesn't waste your time. Um, Another thing is probably the emotion in it. Um, in a sense, I mean, Jesus Christ, I think the last time I probably got kind of emotional watching a TV series probably would have been about Stranger Things season 4. I mean, this show is probably the most gruesome, violent, grotesque show out there, and yet it creates so much, you know, emotional tension from the scenes of like King's Landing to Flea Bottom, which I cannot remember that being in the books. It really expands on the Game of Thrones universe, but cleverly so. It doesn't make it pretentious. A massive problem with shows and games and stuff like that is that they're extremely pretentious. The writers write the characters up their own asses and stuff like that, and sort of try and force you to sympathize with them. It's like, well, I had this really sad background. Duncan the Tool is never complaining for it. He is the archetype of what I would say is an extremely cleverly written character. Never does Duncan the Tool sit there going, I was raised in the shit poor ends of King's Landing and that's the reason I hate XYZ groups of people. He doesn't sit there posturing himself, grandstanding like most of these other shows. Yeah, it's crazy. He accepts his flaws, he knows his background, and then he sort of makes the most of the world around him and the situations he goes into. And I love that the show has expanded on things, stuff like Arlen of Pennytree, a character who in the books, I read the books probably about 6 years ago, and I haven't read it since. But I can remember not knowing very much about Arlen of Pennytree. In this show, Arlen of Pennytree is my favorite character. He's an absolute badass, but not like not some sort of flawless hero, someone to look up to. He's not the perfect role model. He's like this drunk, but he's got the right sort of moral conviction. His every choice he sort of does or did, he doesn't have all that much dialogue, but you can see he's an honorable knight, and that's sort of the foundations of what Duncan the Tool has learned from. And yeah, the acting throughout this is absolutely exceptional. It's top tier quality stuff. Pretentiousness, no silly dialogue. Every scene makes sense, and this show respects your time. In comparison to House of the Dragon, it goes to show. I don't know what the budget for this show is, and I'm not going to look at the budget now. But obviously, it's much higher budget than Game of Thrones Season 1, but it is sort of like Game of Thrones Season 3 on steroids, where you actually got battles and stuff like that. And oh my god, the fucking action scenes are absolutely crazy. A massive thing Game of Thrones I always thought sort of, except for like the Mountain and Oberyn Martell, was the action sequences were terrible. Oh my god, the Night of the Seven Kingdoms is absolutely crazy. The jousting, the sword fights, the tension, it doesn't just sort of go on forever like in season 7 of Game of Thrones, where these guys are all just sort of like Blade Master, Jiu-Jitsu pros, and stuff like that. It is absolutely claustrophobic, exciting. Oh my god. This show is what every single company who is looking to actually make entertaining stories, good characters. This is what people should be looking to. Scrap out the rest of the shit. Get rid of 90% of your writing forces, World of Warcraft, because this show is exactly what, games and TV series really need to sort of look at. Anyways, I am kind of, yeah, I think that's a good enough point to make. I would say 10 out of 10. And I think the only criticisms I would have for this show would be that it just doesn't. I know the next episode's going to be the last episode, but I can rewatch this over and over again, I think. It is insanely good.